Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Hidden Opportunity of Food Waste. My name is Victoria Stark, and I'm the Marketing and Development Manager here at Blink. It's a pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of our team, and we look forward to exploring this topic with you all today. I'd like to acknowledge all of our speakers who have taken the time to come and be with us this morning, and also everyone who's joined us on our live stream. For those of you who have been following our journey, know that it's the first time ever we've are live streaming an event today, and we're really excited, and hopefully all goes smoothly. So before we get started, we'll just go over some quick housekeeping. Emergency exits are located at the front and the rear of the building. If you need the toilets, the facilities are located down the hallway, past our two meeting rooms on the right-hand side. In the unlikely event of an emergency this morning, please remain calm and follow the instructions of your building wardens. Luckily, one of those is me, so you'll be in good hands, and Carolyn is in the back as our other building warden. If we do have to evacuate, our meeting point is in Orchard Car Park, which is where many of you would have parked this morning, and it's just back behind Lincoln Agritech, right behind us. So what is Blink? Blink Innovation Hapuna Kari Kari is an agribusiness organization that facilitates change and innovation. We connect the innovation ecosystem through events like this. Our innovation series looks to unpack some of the most critical topics facing our food and fiber sector. We collaborate in everything we do, but this concept really comes to life here at Blink Workshop, where we have a vibrant co-working community and event space. We innovate to transform the future of agriculture. We do this by working across the triple helix of innovation to form the best teams possible to tackle multi-party projects. We wouldn't be here today without the support of our founders. Thank you to Manaki Whenua Landcare Research, Plant and Food Research, Lincoln University, Ag Research, and Dairy and Zed, and thank you to anyone who's in the audience from those organizations today. As many of you know, we've been following a climate change theme for the past few months in our innovation series. Food waste is also a piece of that essential puzzle as we look to unpack this critical topic. The Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change recently released this Climate Change and Land Report, which for the first time brought together a group of global scientists to look at what the potential impacts of climate change could be on our land. If you haven't had a look at the report yet, I would suggest you do, but must admit it's a little bit confronting, so just take your time with it. It's not, but today we'll just focus on the food supply instabilities that are highlighted. So as we can see, we've been in this period of warming from 2006 to 2015. However, as we move closely to 1.5 degrees of warming, food supply instabilities become critical, and they become severe at just 2 degrees of warming. So what does that have to do with food waste? Within the report, looking at reducing food waste across the entire value chain is noted as a way to help mitigate this issue. So what does food waste have to do with climate change anyways? So we have a lot to do with water and greenhouse gas emissions, and if food waste were a country, it would be ranked number 3 in the world behind just the United States and China for its greenhouse gas emissions profile. 45% of the world's food loss and waste comes from cereals, and the number 1 culprit is bread. I'll leave all the local statistics to the experts today, but I did want to share the impact that food waste does have on climate change. As we look at and consider our changing climate and how we might feed the world in 2050, there's always talk of how this might happen and how we'll actually be able to produce more food. But what if we could really meet demand today if we just cut our food waste by 50%? One of these opportunities is banana production in India. In India, they produce 28% of the world's global production of bananas. However, they are only able to capture 0.3% of all international trade due to their lack of adequate cold storage. This means that if India had adequate cold storage and improved their supply chain, not only would they reduce their environmental impacts, they would also add numerous economic benefits back to their people. Before I hand over to the experts, and they share their amazing companies and stories with you, I just wanted to highlight a few startups that are doing some great work in this space. Large amounts of investment worldwide are going into food waste as we look to tackle this problem. One of the easiest ways we can all make an impact is, of course, to donate our excess food to food banks and reduce our own personal footprints. We also have an opportunity to intercept food before it does become waste. Foodprint, which has been launched in Auckland, is an app that connects conscious consumers with food that is about to become or at risk of becoming waste, and they can purchase that food at reduced prices. Hopefully we'll have that across the country soon. Ecogas is a startup out of Australia that tracks food from the farm gate through to the retail store and provides data to everyone across the supply chain so they can analyze it and look for gaps and opportunities to improve what they do. If you've ever gone to the grocery store, brought home that beautiful punnet of strawberries and had it go off the next day, you know why this technology might be even more game-changing. There's also an opportunity to upcycle waste products and turn them into value-add goods. Companies such as the Apple Press right here in the Hawke's Bay take unwanted fruit and turn them into delicious juices. I personally love them myself. We also have an opportunity to use technology before the farm gate and to help our food producers and growers make better decisions on farm and protect and mitigate against losses. Robotics Plus has a new innovation that they are working on that scans orchards so that growers can review and predict yields and that they can then assess when the best time is to pick fruit and reduce losses. And now to introduce our speakers. Our first speaker today, and I will introduce everyone now, and they'll come up, and if you haven't had a chance to read their full bios online, please do take the time to do so. Francesca Goodman-Smith is the Waste Minimisation Manager at Foodstuffs. She completed her master's degree in food waste for supermarkets and joined the Foodstuffs team earlier this year. Maggie Peacock and Zoe Rooks are here with us from Babel, and with their business partner, Sarah, they've developed an innovative solution that not only helps to tackle food waste, but also looks to tackle one of our other major environmental concerns, which is, of course, plastic. And they're still in university, so good on them for being with us today, poor things, in the midst of tests and craziness. And we also have Andrew Fisher. Andrew's the director of Ecogas, and Andrew's an award-winning food waste entrepreneur who will share his journey and how he's turned food waste into fuel, fertilizer, and feed. So over to you, Francesca.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for that introduction, and I really appreciate the time being here today with all of you to talk a little bit about what Foodstuffs is doing to reduce our food waste, but as well look at the opportunities to work across the food supply chain to achieve some real meaningful food waste reduction and meet international targets as well. So globally, as Victoria said before, around a third of the food produced in the world never makes it to a human mouth. And there's an amazing opportunity there to harness that and reduce those quantities so that we can continue to feed the world into the future. With food insecurity continuing to rise and climate change just becoming more and more important to deal with, the way we manage our food waste is really critical. So in terms of the retail sector, retail makes up about 7% of the total, the proportion of food waste across the food supply chain. Now this data is from 2011, so it's quite dated, and there's been a lot of focus on the retail sector to reduce food waste over the last 7 or 8 years since this data was collected. So we think that improvements are happening in this space, but that doesn't mean we can get complacent. There's always room for improvement, and we also have a fantastic opportunity in our place in the supply chain to influence change and accelerate food waste reduction further up the supply chain with the producers and also further down the supply chain with consumers as well. And that will take a combination of collaboration, innovation and education to actually get that change happening. So retailers traditionally don't waste a huge amount of food proportionally because waste is a cost to the business. So they are incentivized to do as much as they can to keep waste down, which is fantastic because that means that resources are kept in that system going to their original purpose, which is to be fed to people. And Foodstuffs is no exception. So we run a national waste minimisation program across our New World, Pack and Save stores, as well as at our distribution centres and our corporate sites as well. And we implement the food waste or food recovery hierarchy, which prioritises reduction at the source first, then redistribution to people, followed by recycling and recovery, and the absolute last resort is to landfill. So we began our journey to tackle waste in around 2012, where we saw that there was a big opportunity to create some efficiencies around the way that we managed waste. Every individual store sort of had their own system, worked with their own waste provider. Some did food donation where they set up those relationships themselves or had a local pig farmer that they worked with. But there was no organisational-wide strategy or culture around waste minimisation, and there also weren't any targets that were motivating stores to really put the effort in and do what they could. So we thought, this is a big opportunity. Let's have a look at what kind of program could work for us. So between 2012 and 2014, we set to designing this national program to help tackle all waste streams, but including food waste. And through that program, we're managing to divert our waste away from landfill, and also placing some targets around that encourage stores to take action. Whoops. Oh, I think there's a slide missing. That's right. So on the slide that's missing, it just says that we've got 132 sites on our program currently, and that's about 60% of our New World and Pack and Save supermarkets, and we're always trying to grow and expand that. We've also got our distribution centres on the program as well. And so there's two targets that we set our stores. So after they've been on the program for a year, we expect that they should be diverting 80% of total waste from landfill. And after 2 years on the program, they should be diverting 90%. So currently we've got 28 stores who are diverting over 90% of their waste from landfill. And we've got 94 stores that are in Q1 of this year. They managed to divert 80% or more of their waste from landfill, which is pretty incredible considering the amount of food and product that's coming in and out of our stores each day. And in terms of diversion, so we split our waste into up to 10 different waste streams, or our food. And over here we've got the hierarchy. So the first thing that we look to do is to reduce any waste that does occur at the source. So we implement systems like stock rotation, bringing the older stock forward and putting the new stock behind. We've got automated forecasting systems which try to accurately predict customer demands and needs and take into account seasonality. And we also try and use as much product in store as we can. So if product's damaged or bags are split, or there's a bag of oranges and one might be bad, we use the others in our fresh food departments, so our delis and our bakeries, and try and keep as much of that within our system as we can. If we can't manage to do that, we will divert firstly to food rescue charities. They are a amazingly important part of our efforts to be sustainable, and we work with organisations throughout the whole country to divert food to people. If we can't do that, we'll look to send our food to stock feed or to pet food, and then to compost or to be reprocessed into new products. For example, protein waste can be ground up into a meat meal product. So that sort of thing will come under that, and lastly, landfill. But we're managing through this program to divert around, on average, 84% of our waste from landfill. And of the stuff that's not going to landfill, so these diversion pathways, about 35% of that is food, and that's all being sent to places other than landfill. Our relationships with our food rescue partners, as I said, are extremely important. And in Christchurch, we work with a whole myriad of local organisations such as Satisfy Food Rescue, 0800 Hungry, City Harvest, Christchurch Food Bank. And in the year to May 2019, we donated the equivalent of 6.4 million meals to local communities, and that is just stores on our waste minimisation program as well. the other 40% of stores will be participating in food donation. We just don't have the data to capture what they're doing. So what's next? We've got a really successful program, but we want to scale up. We want national coverage of that program so that we can get data from all of our stores and then inform targeted interventions. So that's something we're going to really be pushing. We also want to switch our focus from diversion to reduction being the primary aim as well. We're doing really well at diverting our waste, but reduction is where you keep the value of the product within the supply chain going to its original purpose. We also want to look at transitioning towards zero food waste, keeping our diversion rates high, as I said, and expanding our food rescue programs too. So organisations like Foodstuffs are very lucky because we've got scalability and we can do a lot within our own business to reduce food waste. But if you always look at things from your own silo and isolation, how are we going to achieve these big lofty targets for food waste reduction that we need globally to actually help address climate change and reduce our carbon footprint? So in 2015, the UN set a set of 17 sustainable development goals, and one of those, a target under those, looks to halve per capita food waste across the supply chain by 2030. So this is a great opportunity for all of us to work together to actually bring about change of that scale. And we need to innovate, collaborate, and educate to get there. So I'd just like to share with you a couple of Foodstuffs-specific stories that take all three of those tools into account and how we brought about some change. So earlier this year, our protein collector in the South Island said they couldn't collect our product anymore. And suddenly we were faced with around 40 stores having all of this material that's very temperature sensitive and messy that they needed to deal with quite quickly. So the first step of that was actually educating the retailers that there's some value out of that product that they can extract out of the meat trimmings and fat. They can turn that into something. And from that seemingly sort of crisis point situation, great innovation came. So stores started making bird feeders out of the fat. They started selling bones for dogs to have. They bagged up meat and trim for pet food, and they got really creative. And where they were not able to do that in store, they partnered with local organisations. So they collaborated. They worked with local butcheries or pet food producers so that they could still get value out of that product and not be sending it to landfill. And it was a win-win situation really because the butchers and the pet food companies then didn't need to buy in that material. So that's an example of how all of those three pillars can really accelerate positive change. So as most of you will know, plastic is a really hot topic at the moment. In fact, 72% of New Zealanders are deeply concerned about plastic in the environment. And we've got a fantastic customer insights team who look into consumer changes and trends that are happening and try and front foot that so that we can provide the solutions to customers' changing demands. So an initiative that came from that was Food in the Nude. So in the South Island, we've got 14 New World stores who are participating in that, where they are stripping back all the unnecessary plastic from produce departments to provide fresh produce to consumers without plastic. It's a great initiative, but we had to take some considerations for food waste into account because when you're removing the packaging, you don't want to cause inadvertent food waste due to spoilage or damage of product. So we really had to innovate. We had to create new shelving systems and misting units to keep that produce fresh for a long time. We also needed to collaborate with our suppliers to make sure that food wasn't getting damaged in the supply chain as it journeyed to store, and specify that we actually wanted our produce without plastic. We then took things one step further and we chose to educate our consumers around how they could reduce food waste in the home as well. So all three of those things were extremely important in driving positive change, taking consumer insights, but then also making sure that food waste wasn't created as a problem from reducing the packaging. So another example I wanted to highlight was how the supply chain can work together and influence up and down to bring about positive food waste reduction change that can benefit everybody. So like we saw for plastics, consumers can really use their power. So at the farm, a lot of produce is wasted before it even makes the shelf because of strict grading requirements. So the sort of physical specification of the product that ends up on the shelf is at such a high standard that lots of the product doesn't meet that. So that's retailers specifying that, but it's because of what consumers demand, the quality that they demand and what they expect. So if we can encourage consumers to say, look, you know, there's an issue of food waste, there's a lot being wasted in that production area, what can we do about it? We can demand, we can say we will buy that imperfect produce. So if there's a demand, then we can go back to our producers and we can say, look, our customers want it, that will reduce food waste at the farm. It'll give us certainty that we can sell that product and we can all work together to bring about positive change. But consumers really do have a lot of power to drive that change. So that sort of sums up my time, I think, but I hope that you've got some insights about what Foodstuffs is doing in terms of tackling food waste and wider waste, and that these three pillars of collaboration, innovation and education resonate with you as well. So I've got a few questions that I wanted to pose to you to just get you thinking. So in terms of collaboration, how can we encourage different parts of the food supply chain to team up to improve processes and reduce waste and also harness the value that food waste does present? In terms of innovation, how can we create that sense of urgency, like with the protein situation where we had to come up with a solution fast that really spurs innovation? And in terms of education, how do we create a consumer movement around food waste like we have for plastics at the moment? Cool, thank you.
All right, and everyone, we'll save our questions for the panel discussion, please, but we'll hand over to Maggie and Zoe now.
Good morning, everyone. I'd just like to introduce us before we start. I'm Maggie, and this is Zoe, and we're two of the three girls from Bayable. And we're just going to start with a little video that might give you a little bit of an insight into who we are before we get into it.
As part of our research, we looked to our community and we asked them a few questions through a survey as to what they did with their current plastic fruit labels, and they all replied along the lines of they either eat it, they stick it somewhere, or they just flick it away.
I'm Zoe Rooks and I'm Marketing Director.
I'm Sarah Wixon and I'm the CEO.
I'm Maggie Peacock and I'm the Productions Operator.
I'm Riley Bentzman and I'm Communications Director, and
we are Bayable.
The industry has invested heavily over many years to develop sustainable production practices, but the one challenge that we have remaining, particularly at a time where plastics is such a significant issue, is what do we do with the labels? And I would get 2 or 3 complaints a month from consumers asking what it is we're doing to make them more sustainable. So to have an option now developed by young talent in the Hawke's Bay, our major growing region, that comes up with an option for addressing that issue on our behalf is really exciting.
We had 4 goals for our herbal, and they were to be soluble, compostable, natural and edible.
So this is the clear version of the plastic alternative that we've created. We have developed an opaque version that is white, or we could colour it any colour we like, which we're using for our labels. And it came out and we thought, oh my goodness, it worked.
In New Zealand, we grow the best apples and pears in the world. We use the byproduct of these waste apples as a key ingredient
So we've called our product the Urbal because that's its main characteristic, being warm, water soluble.
Our next steps with the Urbal is to look at manufacturing it on a large scale and finding a way to ensure that it sticks fast to the apples using the current technology that is required for labelling. The Urbal is fully natural and we use edible ink when printing on it and also edible glue. We've had some offers of trial runs and working out ways how we could send perhaps a crate of apples overseas with our Urbals applied to them. Watch out for an Urbal on your apple soon.
So, as you can see, well, that video was made last year, so we don't wear the school uniform anymore. But, so obviously we started in Hawke's Bay and we were in our last year of school last year, and we came up with this idea through the Young Enterprise Scheme because we took business studies last year. And when we were coming up with our idea, we were sort of thinking, what's a very topical issue at the moment? And we were thinking, plastic, and then what's something that's sort of closer to home? And we were thinking Hawke's Bay, and then we thought fruit, and then the issue that's often overlooked, which is the plastic fruit labels. So basically we wanted to stand out and create something a little bit different that sort of no one's thought of just yet.
So Hawke's Bay is known as the fruit bowl of New Zealand, so obviously we wanted to do something in the horticultural area. And when people came to us and they said, well, stickers aren't that big of a deal, they're like tiny little pieces of plastic. So we did some research and we found that 2.4 billion labels are applied to apples in Hawke's Bay alone every year. So if you think about all the other fruit, all the other regions, every year, that's a lot of plastic. And so we saw it as a problem that could be solved.
So as you heard on the video, we made 4 goals for our product, and that was for it to be warm water soluble, and that was really important to us because we wanted sort of our new product to have like zero trace of that it was even there, and it's gone, like when you take it off it's fully gone, and it to be edible obviously, and fully natural, no sort of nasty chemicals or any just not natural things, and then for it to be home compostable, so it doesn't have to be like specially composted like a lot of other things, like the coffee cups, for example. A lot of them actually can't be fully composted in New Zealand because the technology isn't available just yet. And we didn't want consumers to have to change their habits, so we didn't want them to have to sort of, I don't know, put their sticker somewhere that they wouldn't usually. But however, you can just chuck it on the ground and it'll go away and eat it and it'll be fully gone.
Yeah, it won't have any impact whatsoever. So this was just a wild idea. We honestly didn't really think that we could do it. People often ask us, like, how did you even do it? Like, you must be crazy smart. This is mad. But really, we just did lots and lots of research and just experimented, and one day it just happened and we couldn't really believe it. We definitely had bumps along the way, and there are the times when we're like, oh, can we really do this? But one day we came up with this plastic-like sheet, popped it in the printer like you saw in the video, and it came out, and we're like, wow, oh my gosh, we actually did it. So that was pretty cool. It only took us a few months or so. People thought, oh, that'll take you forever, like you won't be making stickers until next year. But it only took us a few months, which is quite exciting. And another cool thing about the sticker is that the main component of it is made of a byproduct of waste apples. So the apples that aren't good enough for market we can use and put onto these apples that are good enough for market, creating a circular economy, which is pretty cool, we think.
And we've also created a glue, which is really awesome because the glue is actually one of the hardest things to make compostable and natural. That's actually one of the worst parts of the sticker that's on the apple because it never goes away.
Exactly. So we find it really stimulating to try and find solutions to the problems that the world is facing today, often the ones that we didn't create. Withstanding the negative connotations of society being increasingly consumerist, our state of wanting more actually drives us to create more.
Yeah, so one of our main sort of business goals is the concept of kaitiakitanga, which is the importance of our environment and the inclusiveness of all people in order to create a sustainable future. So it becomes obvious in instances such as this where a product should have been made sustainable in the first place, as a lot of things today we've found. And we understand that some people who created these problems, that the same people that created these problems aren't necessarily going to be the ones to fix them. So we're really big advocates for sort of young people to get out there and try and make a change. And we've found out so much about the industry and all the different things being happening through doing this project, and we have no sort of horticultural background. Meg and I are both sheep and beef farmers, but we didn't know anything about the fruit industry. And we think youth have the ability to facilitate and create ideas to solve these problems, and which are often overlooked, and it gives an entirely different perspective, we believe.
In fact, for us, a lot of our success and positive feedback comes in part from the shock of our age, where I just turned 19, but Zoe's 18 and so is Sarah. But we aren't entirely different, like I said, to most people our age. Like Zoe said, we had no idea about the industry that we wanted to promote change in, nor did we have any formal qualification or anything like that. And I was the only one who studied science at school, so yeah, anything's possible.
Yeah, so the hardest part for us now, sort of being at university and trying to keep this going and get our sort of product to a commercial standard, it's not coming up with the ideas that we find hard, but getting what has been a proven great idea to a commercially viable, fully funded and expertise backed idea. We just believe that we're massive advocates for youth, and we just believe the next phase of the market should involve the availability of clear pathways for people with good ideas to make it easier for them to get their ideas out there and get them up and running, because they are out there. It's just not quite knowing how to get there, I think.
Exactly. So our new technology could change the face of the market by introducing an accessible way to play your part in minimising plastic waste in New Zealand and around the world. Apples, fruit and other produce that are currently using plastic labels are sending so many single-use plastics into our waste, and our product can solve this issue, the ubu. Despite a slight price increase as projected for a label like ours, we believe that the short-term small financial loss would far be outweighed by the long-term environmental gain.
So we're all aware of the impacts of plastic and food waste on climate change in our environment, amongst other factors. So this means that our sort of technology is really important for sort of beginning that change and getting the circular economy going. So we've found that, we are really passionate about sort of promoting a circular economy as well, because we want to use food to its absolute maximum by using the excess apples and even other fruit to create our label, and we can use our label on other fruits, not just apples, and our stickers just our pilot product.
Yeah, so basically we've explored other options for the ubu, that's our product name, and one of them potentially could be glad wrap, and obviously labels on other things such as jars and other fruits. So this is just the start. It's not just a sticker on an apple. It could be, hopefully will be much more. Just to explain the name of our product and our business, it's a bit confusing. Our business is called Bayable, which is a mix of Hawke's Bay and the word ubu, which is derived from the word soluble. So that's the main characteristics of our product. So hopefully you understand that. It's a bit confusing. People don't often know how to say it, but we ourselves, as the first generation to feel the impact of climate change, and the last generation that can actually do something about it, we are. And the ubu and our business, Bayable, are still in the early stages, but we are doing everything we can to bring the idea to market and to try and make a difference.
Yeah, so with the use of this technology, we've obviously looked into other plastic alternatives, and just adding to Maggie as well, we've looked into making jar labels. So in the supermarkets at the moment, they're looking into bringing your own containers into the delis and things like that. But you have to put a sticker on the top, and you're going to have to wash it off every time. And as we all know, stickers are very hard to get off, so that might be a new scope for us as well.
Exactly. So we hope you have a few things to take away with you today from our presentation, and hopefully you'll be seeing an Uber on your Apple very, very soon. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks guys. I think I might have to start mentally preparing now to be able to eat my label instead of taking it off of my apple, but there could be some cool potential to add some extra flavors and kick up the Apple experience. But over to you, Andrew.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak. I own Ecostock, which is a business that does, food waste to stock feed. We do 35,000 tonne a year, so roughly that's 3 to 4 truck and trailers of food a day, and that's bread, biscuits. But not to sort of confuse things, but hopefully give you an idea, this is around innovation, where New Zealand's trying to catch up with the world. And so I'm also going to talk about Ecogas. So you've got Ecostock for stock feed. Ecogas has only been going pretty much since February this year, but for myself, the journey started back in 2011. Ecogas is a partnership between myself and the Otago Lakes Energy Trust, and it's creating gas from food waste and agricultural waste at scale. For us, it's about $100 million of expansion, and I'll talk you through that journey. And it's begun. I use this saying, I like it, technology doesn't change things, it's people using technology that changes things. Keep it simple. I'm about bringing the wheel to New Zealand, not inventing it, and actually doing stuff. For myself, we're doing it, we're actually making money. You can't save the environment if you're bleeding red. You've actually got to make money, and you've got to pay tax, and you've got to be commercial. That's just the reality of it, and getting across the line. So for me, what is Ecogas? So this is biogas, as you can read on that, in Perth. For us, we're building New Zealand's first commercial scale food waste anaerobic digester plant in Repara. That's $31 million. You may have seen on the news with Minister Jones announcing he's actually stepped in and loaning us $7 million, which is allowing us to build another facility north of Auckland. We've got another facility down here in the South Island. So Pioneer Energy, who's my partner, a $380 million business. They've got hydro dams through Otago, hospital energy facilities. This facility in Perth, while we've gone with that, I go to UK and look at them. There's 142 of these plants in the UK. There's about 2,000 of them in Germany, and quite a few thousand in America. It's happening elsewhere in the world. We're bringing the one from Perth because it allows us to lift and shift. It allows us to bring one to New Zealand that's already designed to New Zealand and Australian engineering standards. Again, it's about bringing the wheel to New Zealand, not inventing it. Just get going. That way we can get insurance. We're working with Turners and Growers, or TNG Global, Nestle, and some of the other big manufacturers to help get this through. This plant will handle around 75,000 tonne a year of food and agricultural waste. So it's not a small amount. This is the other side of the facility. So we can take liquid products. So you've got your wash waters from your butcheries, your dairy factories, your Coca-Cola factories. And for us, was back in Perth back in June. And generally, I'm going with farmers as well, because we can take dairy effluent, chicken manures. And for the farmers, it's actually seeing it work that's the easiest thing. And being Perth, it's nice and close. And a lot of them obviously go up to UK for the rugby tours. So for me, it's about the relationship because it's circular, this business. You take the food waste in. See if I can get the point. Food waste is in these buildings here. We depack it. From here, it sits in this tank into here for 30 to 31 days, producing gas that's captured in the top here, and then digestate comes out here. The digestate is a fertiliser. It's an NPK ratio for those know that side. It's roughly 20-10-10. Ours from our pilot project at the moment is 18-8-9. So it's actually a fertiliser. We did trials and work with Plant and Food in the Hawke's Bay for 2 years. Really happy with what we're producing and the grass and growth. So it's replacing, I guess, that carbon footprint we've got with importing fertilisers. So just to, I guess, go back on the backstory for Ecogas, it's a Reparo project. It's been developed over the 3 years by myself. I sunk over $1.4 million into the process. Gives you an idea of the resource, consenting, the commitment to actually get things across the line. As I said, the Reparo site is with Turners and Growers. Why we're there, it's actually smack in the middle of the North Island. Auckland generates 1.6 million tonne of waste a year. It actually sucks in 3.6 million tonne of aggregate. So that's how many trucks of gravel go into Auckland. We use the backload, so we reduce the carbon footprint to get the waste back down to Reparo. Reparo is also with TNG, they've got, they take natural gas at the moment to feed the glasshouse. They're going to reduce their carbon footprint by 3,500 tonnes a year by using natural gas. They're owned by a German business. For them, it was a no-brainer. It's like, well, we've got 600 of these plus in Germany. They're comfortable with the technology. It was like, hurry up, guys. Allows them to expand. So we'll use, from food waste, we'll generate energy, heat, CO2, electricity, all from what was going into landfill. So it's just using science and having the, I guess, the pride or humbleness to actually just take what's already existing and deploy it here in New Zealand. Nutrients from the process are put on the land. So we're working, I spent yesterday in Taupo with both Pāmu and local iwi. Between the two of them, 18,000 hectares of land they have committed to using for fertiliser application. Because it's already working. There's already benchmarks in the UK and Germany. This is just New Zealand catching up. So a few of them are looking forward to going to rugby trips next year to see this. So the project embraces a circular economy. Just a bit about Pioneer Energy. I'm a small business. I do about $6-7 million a year in business and sales, and I've sort of reinvested everything I've ever done. I needed a big supporter, a big fan, but Pioneer Energy's not just a fan, they're actually doing it. They've got 26 energy sites across New Zealand. They are probably New Zealand's biggest renewable energy side of the house. They're owned by the Otago Lakes Trust, so all their money goes back to the people in the Otago. They're the biggest philanthropic organisation in New Zealand or in Australasia. It's $22,500 in the last 10 years back to the Otago region. It's great, It's actually New Zealand's income going back to New Zealand. So you've seen Otago Rail Trail, Alex Hospital, Queenstown Hospital, that's where the money's going. And they're keeping, what our plan is to build one of these facilities every year, minimum for the next 5 years. We've got big food manufacturers and agricultural producers already engaged with us, and we already have power on their sites, like Silver Fern Farms. Hopefully that's a community-owned power business with more than 80 years with operations on 30 hydro, wind, biogas, processing heat plants across New Zealand. They're doing it. And they've got a big balance sheet, and we've got that certainty, the ability to commit to contracts, ability to commit to research, and actually, at scale, so we're commercially viable. New Zealand landfill is one of the cheapest globally. The landfill tax is $10. It's like having GST at only 2 or 3% and going, oh, our health system's so bad, but we don't get the money in. Comparable, ours is $10 a tonne landfill tax. Globally, it's probably $70 to $90 in Australia. UK is $120. Where the environmental thing is a subject tax. So Pioneer also supplies local hospitals, so Nelson and Auckland hospitals, schools, businesses with wood fuels, and obviously now in this side, they're commercial. They understand the implications of not delivering power. They understand the implications of not running to commercial standards. We're not a fuzzy-wuzzy group of do-gooders trying to actually change. We're actually commercially focused to deliver the science. So what does it look like? Hopefully you can see a bit of that. So here is our food sources. On the farm, you've got silage piles that go off. You've got maize and other products. You've got animal manures. At the factories, you've got the products that don't work. You've got the curbside food waste from houses. And you've got your food services like Kiwi Properties, that, believe it or not, in New Zealand, if you take that out, that's still about 250,000 tonne of food waste. There on farm, you also got things like grape marc from the grape industry. You've got carp out of the Waikato River. So for me, too, I guess, a dream that we also use rail, but we bring it into our site. That should be DM. What we do is we depack it. We've already got 5 depacking machines. We can depack over 450 tonne a day if need be. So we take your Cadbury's chocolate bars, your Griffin's biscuit packets, your packets of bananas, and take the plastic off one way, food goes another way. At the moment, we're stock food. We've got another site now getting built, which will take, for example, your aeroplanes or your marshmallows, because that has gelatin in it. We can't feed gelatin to livestock. We can't feed mouldy product to livestock. Peanuts, the mycotoxins, we can't feed, obviously, glass, so sometimes a factory will have a light bulb break. I work with companies that their brand is bigger than their bricks and mortar. So if a light bulb breaks, everything goes out because they can't have that on social media, and I respect that. People go, oh, it's waste. New Zealand is built on our food reputation, our food security. What this offers is a secondary chance for our food to create energy and be used again. I think New Zealand's always got to put our food safety and our food security and our quality at our forefront. And by doing this, we've got a second life and we've got some energy. So once it's gone through our depacking and we've got the metals out of it, the glass out of it, the plastic, best way to describe it is like a thick spirulina. It's like a real thick product, and we use concrete pumps to pump it into the digester. So it comes in here. It goes in here like a real thick, as I said, thick spirulina. Those tanks you saw, or this tank here, produces biogas. Now, natural gas, you hook onto the network, natural gas is 90% methane and 9% CO2. Obviously, our biogas is only 60% methane and 39% CO2. So that goes out the top. Give you an idea, one of those tanks, in my language, that's all megajoules and everything else, roughly it's 220 litres of diesel energy created every hour. That's on a 24-hour cycle. So that's quite a bit, remembering it's happening all the time. So that's just one of those tanks, and obviously in that picture you saw 2. Reparoil, we're building 3 of them, and they're slightly bigger. Out the bottom comes a black tea, and it's a very, very weak tea. The idea, it's like dairy farming. I guess I come from West Melton, just down the road, originally, and on a beef farm. This is, and I guess why I'm confident about this is farming. This is not mechanical. Anaerobic digestion is farming of bugs. If you feed it too much sugars, you'll have acidosis. Like a cow, you'll tip it over. If you run it too hard and you don't have your trace elements, you'll tip it over. So we have 20 kg bags of dairy supplements that we put in. Here's another, because we have things like cobalt, magnesium, selenium, all the things we're deficient there. Same thing here, it's an animal. Like a farmer, if you're feeding your animals and you're seeing 90% of your stock food going out the back end of the cow, you know you're either overfeeding it and you're not in that optimal space. We're the same. If this is coming out at 4 or 5%, we're not grabbing the energy up this way. So what do we do with the energy? We just copy what they're doing in the UK and Germany. At the start, for us, we're going to put it straight just into the boilers at TNG and create CO2 and heat, and that's it. But it's going to be saving 3,500 tonne of carbon for them a year. Once we get past year 2, which is end of next year, we'll also create electricity, CO2 and heat. Going forward, it's going to take us about 5 years with government and regulations. We'll plug it straight back into the grid. The gas straight back into the grid, because we're not going to have potentially gas in about 20 years' time. In the UK, they also compress it and put it into the trucks. So Volvo, Cummins, they all run CNG engines on their trucks, so it's circular. They also take CO2 out for the bottling industry, so we're working with Villa Maria, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's sort of 5 years. You have got to get that market acceptance, and then you've got to have the logistics to actually get into the market. The fertiliser down here, we've actually got a Malaysian company as well wanting to buy our fertiliser in a dry format. So that's what the site at Reparar looks like. I thought I'd show you sort of where we're at. It's a green paddock at the moment. Another perspective, just to talk it through, this is Broadlands Road. Over this area here is 15 hectares of glass houses. Trucks will come into this building, unload, do all the secret stuff in here, and then from there into these tanks. This is your holding tanks. It feeds from here every hour into these big tanks. We've got big new tanks at the back here now, but I thought I'd just show you something that where we're at, and not the dirt and the sort of civil works going on at the moment. So our journey has already begun. I guess for me, the credibility of working with Pioneer and being able to work also, myself, been working quite a bit with Ministry for Primary Industries. I was in Tokyo only a month ago, helping with food loss waste over there, and they're up in Chile at the moment. Again, helping our, other regions around food loss and waste. I'm about bringing science and technology in the wheel. It's not always about inventing. Once you've got the wheel going, then you can start inventing, but I'm not very good with the old white paper. I like to sort of work a bit from there. So 12 years of food processing, that's me. So to date, I have diverted from landfill 260,000 tonne of food waste and generated about $40 million of economic benefit and paid about $14 million in tax and GST. So 26 renewable energy sites, existing valuable relationships. I deal with 142 food manufacturers across New Zealand. And I guess the big thing for us is we are New Zealand. We're a New Zealand company. Everything we do is New Zealand. I've put money back into Scion with running a pilot plant. I guess I enjoy life and I enjoy seeing fellow New Zealanders benefit from science. I did 12 years in the military. You can't take it with you to the grave, so you might as well have fun with the people around you. And our factory's in South Auckland, and I've got literally everyone from all over the world working for me. I've got 35 staff, and we have a ball all the time. So for us at the moment, that's our Reparar site, and let's see how this goes. That's our network of sites. And for those around here who might know some of the food manufacturers there, we're also partnering up with Department of Corrections as a means of training people from there, because they can't all go back, not being rude and generic, can't all go back to panel bedding shops, etc. For us, that's our network, that's our relationships, and that's our vision of anaerobic digestion. As I said, the UK has got 142 of these plants, 340 if you include the ones that mix in silage, energy crops. New Zealand can support 21 easy, very easy. Us, it's about saying this is a New Zealand thing and keeping it with New Zealand companies so we can actually get through. As I said, landfill is so cheap in this country that everyone's like, oh, the dollars. We just got to compete, and our gate fees are comparable with landfill. That's the hard part, the science that I've had to bring to the table. Gas production, as you can see from here, this is actually written in 2015 by the ministry. By 2030, that's where gas production in New Zealand's going to be. That's our natural gas off Taranaki. This is a way of not totally supplementing it, but actually using what New Zealand can do, grow our products, our food waste. How do I do it and keep control and sleep at night? We've got a system called EcoTrack, which links our people, our products, and our process. Continuous connection, continuous communication, continuous closing. Should still be in business as long as we all keep eating food, hopefully. But we all eat 3 times, 2 times a day. And at the speed of things, and the supermarket chains understand it, it happens fast. Its decision cycles are quick. We've got to be there. That's our way we operate. But then I've got my staff, and I need them, and I need them to be able to filter the information back and help me. We talk through, my staff have always sit there on the lines coming up with ideas to work with our manufacturers how to reduce waste. We're genuine. We're actually doing it. We're not sitting here sort of selling what we do. We've got our dirty JCBs. That's our bread. We know what 400 tonne of food in a day looks like. We know what a farmer doesn't like. We know, to sell $6 million of stock feed a year, you have to have quality. As a guy in the UK politely said to me, about the fertiliser when I took some government officials there. You can only sell shit once. And they're dead right. And that's where we've been doing it for a long time, 12 years now. And we still have the clean stuff, you know. It's the reality. It's waste, it's production, it's keeping going. We work 7 days a week, 364 days a year. We do take Christmas off, but we're back in there Boxing Day. Generally, it's me on the water blaster on Boxing Day. Continuous connections. Look, we work with the farmers, we work with the supermarkets, supply chain. People don't want to waste. It's losing money. They don't want to do it, but they want to get back on their feet and get that waste off somewhere where it's got a secondary use. We bridge the gap. We understand. We don't go in there banging heads. We use EcoTrack to show where we can do things better, but now we've got 12 years history on some sites, and we help them bring in technologies. As I said, our journey has already begun. We're doing it, and we're doing it at scale, and we look forward to getting the site going in Timaru and our sites in Reparoa, Nafa and north of Auckland. I think that should be it. Yep.
You can jump right up there on the panel. Awesome. Thank you very much. That was really fascinating. So I'd like to invite all of our panelists to please take a seat, and we'll jump into our panel discussion. We do have Slido working today, so if you go to that website, just make sure you put the full stop in the middle and put the code in with the hashtag. You can put questions up on there, or feel free to just raise your hand. Please just wait for the roving microphone to come around to you, just since we are recording. It will help everyone be able to hear you that is not with us in the room. Does anyone have any burning questions? If not, I can start us off. Perfect.
Thank you. It's the Uber people. Why do we need to label apples, number one? And number two, why don't we just label the apple directly with the printing?
So legally you have to have the country of origin on all your fruit, and it's actually for supermarkets as well, it's hard for identification purposes. So when the person at the checkout's trying to click in the type of apple that it is, they need the sticker because a lot of people don't. It's hard to tell between the types, and a lot of supermarkets complain about how they're like 200% of their apples are being sold because people are typing them in wrong. And they've tried printing sort of straight onto the apple, but consumers don't really like that. And there's they've trialled doing laser tattooing straight onto the fruit, but consumers want the perfect apple and they don't want the skin to be damaged.
Yeah, especially in overseas markets.
Does that answer your question?
Any other questions? No? Okay. Kelly, do you have the microphone?
This is for Zoe and Maggie as well. Congratulations, you guys are doing great things, and it's great to see young people working in that space. Can you tell us a little bit about the glue that sticks it to the fruit?
Yes, so we also created a glue alongside like the plastic alternative ubu, and it's fully natural, edible, home compostable, everything like that. Can't really tell you what it is and what it's made of, but yeah, it complies with all of the goals that we had for our ubu and washes away obviously underwater. So hope that answers your question.
A little bit more testing. We need to do a bit more lab testing with our products as well in the future. Yeah.
Hi, congratulations to all of you. You're doing some amazing work. Probably a question for everyone on the panel. What are the biggest barriers for you sort of scaling and pushing forward with your initiatives?
I think what Andrew kind of hit on at the end there, that it is so cheap to send waste to landfill at the moment, and for a lot of businesses it still does come down to cost, and until people actually have to pay a realistic rate to send food to landfill that actually takes into account all of the social and environmental impacts as well, I think when we see that, we'll see massive change. People are companies are starting to actually understand that they do need to put money behind doing the right thing. But yeah, I think that landfill is too cheap.
I think a big barrier for us is obviously getting our product to market. Now we are getting help, and people are actually really helping us. But at the start, people would come to us and tell us things and say, do this, do that, do this, but never really properly helped us and lifted us up. And that it's I think a bit of an issue. But no, we are getting onto it. But that was definitely a barrier for us, and it still kind of is. But we're working through it.
And sort of our age as well. We are slightly naive probably, but that can work in our favour sometimes, I think. And just trying to find the right people to work with us and that have the right sort of knowledge and expertise is the biggest sort of barrier for us at the moment. And funding.
I'll give you. For me, this probably is capital. Things cost money, and banking in New Zealand, we've got the wrong financial structure. If I went and bought land, I can borrow up to 80 or 90%. If I want to go and buy depacking equipment, say a $700,000 machine, I need about 80% deposit. Okay. Now New Zealand used to have and the same with even these technology and on the farm and that, but everyone goes against the mortgage of the land. If we're going to be an innovative country, we've actually got to, and we used to have what called the DFC sort of understand back in the sort of 1980s until it went off into property and lost money. It's the reality of the banks to actually fund and how we can actually get more money behind equipment, and the ability to access equipment at a rate. Buying land, developing land is very, we can do that in New Zealand. You can borrow 90% equipment, and then you go and buy a second depacking machine, and that's literally 100% down. So for me, I've just poured the money back in. Taking what the girls have said here as far as you've got to find the right people in New Zealand. We don't have, I'd say we have sharks as well. They try to put the money in and they want to take control of the businesses. They don't understand that taking 10% and seeing success is quite good. I own my business 100%. It's taken me 10 years to find Pioneer. They're community-based. Their goal is, a lot of New Zealanders think being an entrepreneur is all about getting money again. It's you've got to look at the other things you're going to get in life, and seeing these girls succeed, seeing things succeed is just as good. But there's people who just want to make money, and that's the brutality of it. And they want to make money from you because they can't make money themselves.
One of the other barriers as well, which kind of resonates with that, is networks. I think New Zealand could definitely strengthen our network in the waste sector a lot better than there's sort of a bit of a coordination failure happening across things and in terms of infrastructure and where the investment's happening, and a bit focus and targets around stuff, so that everybody's putting resources together to work towards common goals rather than all this sporadic stuff happening. You need that as well, but we need a bit more of a sort of strategic approach to the whole network and sector.
I'll just jump in with a question that's come through from the Slido. Looks like it's for Andrew, and anyone else can jump in. How can we incentivize more commercial businesses to get on board rather than waiting for tax changes for landfill?
So my price point, and I guess where we are, is we don't need the landfill tax to move. I've been 2007 was when the landfill tax was put in, so my pricing is competitive with landfill. The reality is New Zealand has 2 landfill companies, and they control 80-90% of the market contractually, and that's business. That is I look at business as a sport, and I'm in the 4th division. I won't get to the 1st division, but they're in the 1st division, and they're there, and like a 1st division team, they're in business. And I think New Zealanders have got to realise that we're naive. We're really competitive about sport, and we know the rules of sport. Business is sport, and we just don't want to participate as competitively as the rest of the world does. I think if we get our head round it, actually business is something we can be good at as well. You know, we don't race around bemoaning the All Blacks for not getting paid as much as they do in the UK. It's just the same for the landfill tax. How do we do it? How do we incentivise our staff differently? How do we work with them?
I wanted to explore, particularly with you and others, chime in about the structure or the structural impediments, and you touch on the banks. And don't you think there's a sort of philosophical view now that banks are out of step with this kind of space, that in fact their risk appetite settings will never allow them to truly embrace the kind of risk appetite you've got to have to be so courageous to get out and do these things? And so the financial market is going to have to shift into different ways of funding these sorts of things.
For me to answer. Then you take the next step, and I'll drill down. In a bank, you've got a CEO, a branch manager. They all have individual performance targets, and they're all about either improved margin or improved sales. Now, we don't embrace failure either. You know? So if you're going to help, you know, got certainty putting money into sort of, you know, a guy who's going to go into a new world, there's certainty there. Going into this is no certainty. So we don't support failure, or we don't embrace the second step. You know, we don't, and go back to sport. You know, we are going to fail, but we don't like failure, and it's giving the ability to pick it up. And in the side of the banking sector, why go down a machinery when you can get certainty from land? It's the internal drivers and individual drivers. If you're a manager and you just started out a business and you've got this big, you know, aspiration of getting to the top, you don't want a black dot beside your name because you ain't going to get to the next level. So you'll happily agree with everyone. You're not going to push the barrier. For me, 35 staff flat, I'm the top and the bottom all in one day, and that's how it happens. And again, I think the United States did it going into World War II. You know, they were a massive army, but they had no innovation. So they kept innovation to the side because they could fail up and down really quickly. And that's how they do with their IP businesses. You have your big business, and you've actually got to pull aside a little bit that can fail, pick it up, fail, pick it up. But it doesn't affect the careers, the aspirations of individuals in the big company. You can have these wacky people over here, bring them in and out, but you can't have the wacky people inside the big organisation. It just doesn't happen. And that's where I was in the Special Forces, 4, 5 years. Special Forces aren't special also because we've got bigger muscles. We're all different, and we all look at the problem differently. You know, most people don't run at bullets. We do. But there's conventional army, and it sits over here. The Special Forces sit there. To keep going, that's, you know, why you have incubators. Ideas can't come from the mainstream because the mainstream have got other drivers, careers, mortgages. So you've got to keep it out to the side, but that organisation that can blister it out to the side, but it's the leader. So the chairman, the board of directors who have the ability to keep that side of the house and the ability for that wacky element to take their top guy and put it back across there.
And the government funding approach is the way that it's set up, it's almost too slow for business. By the time you put your application in and go through all of those steps, by the time you get the money out the other end of it, you know, things have moved on so fast. So I think there's a big opportunity there to revisit how that whole process can support businesses who are trying to make a difference, but and trying to access money. And
Can I just go back one more time on that? So to our 2 young entrepreneurs here, you'll never get a loan from the bank. And that's the challenge, isn't it? You know, you won't. They will look at you because of your age, the risk profile, everything about it smacks of entrepreneurship, which a bank generally, on those very traditional mechanisms, just don't know how to deal with that, which is a pity. And I guess I'll make the statement, I'm not quite sure, you better get into cryptocurrency and stuff like that, I think.
Yeah. Excellent. We've had another one come through the Slido. For all 3 of you, who is championing the Paris Agreement, the Paris target around reduced waste in New Zealand? Who is coordinating our collective efforts?
Okay, so on the government side of the house, I think it's across different departments. I've just recently started doing some work with the Ministry for Primary Industries. who've picked up the food loss and obviously went across to Tokyo. I think it's that network and finding for the government, it's actually who's actually doing it. I guess the fear is that they're going to reinvent the wheel and they're not going to go out and pick up some 4th division teams and try and get us into the 1st division. They're going to try and actually start from scratch. And like a sports team, starting from scratch just doesn't happen unless you throw exorbitant amounts of money at it. And my belief is that we've actually got, some really good players out there at the moment and just, reinforce them. But we've got, and talking to the government, they can't fund a lot of New Zealand farmers and a lot of activity because it's seen as subsidies, so it affects our trade, and I can't get my head around it at the moment. But essentially the government can't support farmers because it's seen as subsidising us, and I don't know how to solve that problem. But it's a big one. It's literally preventing hundreds of millions of dollars going into New Zealand farming and food waste prevention because it's seen as subsidising us.
Have you seen anything in your work, Francesca?
Yeah, I think the Ministry for the Environment is trying to do a bit in that space, and I think as the government kind of settles in and they get their work program, they're putting a lot of resource into waste, they might be able to be in a position of leadership. But you need everybody at the table. You can't just have government leading this thing. You need industry, you need academics, you need startups, you need everybody in that space together. And we signed onto the Sustainable Development Target. We were one of the 175 signatories, but we don't have a roadmap to get there. So we've said, yeah, we want to achieve this target, go off everybody, do your bit to get towards it. And instead of countries like America and the UK, who have been doing this stuff for a long time, they have roadmaps, and they've got individual roadmaps for each stage of the food supply chain and interim targets tracking towards that stuff. But I think it all comes down to data as well. We've got a real data gap in New Zealand for food waste in particular. And if we don't have data and means of tracking this stuff, how do we know if we've achieved it?
Absolutely. Yes.
Hi, thank you all of you for the presentations that you've done. It's amazing information. It's more of a, not so much of a question, but can you guys comment on there's a bit of a contradiction. The consumer wants the perfect product, but the consumer is worried about the food waste and, climate change and all those things. I don't know, can you guys make comments on that sort of dichotomy that we as consumers have and maybe ways that we can resolve them?
For our product, that's like saying why do we have the sticker? But it's like the consumer wants to know what brand, if their apple's organic or if what Braben or Granny Smith, So it is a contradictory there, and people always say that they want to sort of reduce waste, but do they actually do it? Is bringing your, instead of using those little plastic bags to get your fruit, bringing in the weaved ones. How many people actually do that? So I think just making it more us just making a new product to sort of help that out and just giving it to them and sort of not giving them a choice of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. Also, it's quite common sense price difference with, environmentally friendly products and things like that. Obviously, consumers aren't too keen on spending more, so making a good median, I think, is what's important in driving change.
And behaviour change is really, really challenging. What people sort of visualise their ideal self and what they want to do, and then what they do in practice is very different. It's like with the ugly fruit and vegetables, we would put that out there on the shelf if there was consumer demand for it, but people don't actually buy it. So then it's not sustainable to do that. Still, every now and again stores are doing that kind of stuff. But to do things on scale, consumers need to back it with their purchasing decisions and following through. And I think we're seeing that in plastic. It's momentum. You've got your eager, early adopters and stuff, and they're really getting going, and then they bring everyone else along. But I think the profile for food waste, it's not up there with plastics at the moment, and we need to sort of create that sort of awareness and movement, and that's everybody's responsibility. It's any stage of the food supply chain, it's our role to advocate for change and waste reduction and empower consumers to then do the right thing and creating the options for them to do the right thing, but yeah, with some certainty that they will follow through on it as well.
For my side of the house, like, I guess where anaerobic digestion comes in, because you're actually competing for the same products as potentially as the supermarkets. In the UK, there's companies I work with who actually buy, they buy apples, they buy stuff. So you're actually, instead of trying to change behaviours sometimes, and the old rugby analogy, you pave the fat man's track because they ain't going to, kids, you look at them. So for me, it's actually building that secondary market. So there's an alternative that's still, for food waste. I mean, we don't want to see an apple that's dropped on, as soon as it's dropped on the supermarket floor, don't put it back up. It's on Facebook, people watching. That's got to go, but can it go off to AD, create CO2, electricity and be reused again? In the UK, they're starting to make bioplastics as well with the products and working with a company here. So there's other uses, so it's actually bringing that secondary market and that secondary use. And it's like, dairy products, you've got milk powder, you've got butters, you've got to build depth to it. You can't just dictate and tell everyone to do ugly fruit this week. So it's building those secondary markets.
Michael? Oh, sorry, Sarah.
Hi, this is a sort of a question for Andrew, but to all. So Amy Keller spoke at BOMA Grow Summit and said if food waste were a country by itself, it would be the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases after US and China. So I'm just wondering what secondary markets or changing the financial incentive people can do to be able to buy credits to offset greenhouse gas emissions, etc., in businesses like yourselves, and changing the way it's structured.
The joys of the information. Technology goes faster than infrastructure. I think New Zealand's suffering that with our road and everything else. We're very good at the talking and the information sharing, and I see it with government departments. We do the data gathering, and I look at New Zealand's got to change the way we do stuff. We don't. Once we do the information gathering, the meetings, we have no money left for the capital works, the capital actual the physical things. We've got to be humble enough and just borrow what the Aussies have done, what the Brits have done, go, oh, yep, that's roughly where we are. We've got food waste, we eat and crack on, as opposed to, just take best practice. The Japanese, when I was over there, they don't worry about the data. They're like, well, roughly 80%, we'll go with 80% and we'll get there. It's like a rugby team. We've got to play, let's get on the field. So to answer your question there, it's actually putting money into infrastructure. It's infrastructure first, and we don't have it. We're 20 years behind on anaerobic digester technology, so get that going, and then I guess to shape the conversation, we've got to put money into infrastructure, and that's what will drive into further research and development. But match up with other centres, like there's a Welsh Centre of Excellence in anaerobic digestion, so that's technology. But we should match up with other countries.
Arthur Michael.
Kia ora. My question's for Francesca. I'm a big fan of the fact that we're starting to see in Christchurch, you guys in New World stocking locally made produce. I'm wondering what it's going to take for the supermarket industry to up their game and start relocalising and dealing with local suppliers to cut down on a lot of the, I guess, carbon emissions and costs around transportation, which probably also has an effect on food waste. And I think there's also an education role around that as well, in terms of people being able to identify different types of apples, so we don't need stickers. If people don't know the difference between a Granny Smith and a Braeburn, then I think we've got some more fundamental issues there. I guess where, how much plastic we're consuming, but, being able to buy directly or reasonably directly from the people who are producing the food seems like a huge opportunity here in reducing a lot of the costs, both environmental and cultural and societal costs around our food system. So how can the supermarkets lead that?
Yeah, that's a big question for, Foodstuffs is a really big organisation, and there's two cooperatives. So the South Island operate almost independently from the North Island, so they do things quite differently. I hear what you're saying in terms of buy local, and that's sort of outside of my sphere of influence, really. But I think cutting down on the logistics costs is a massive, massive thing. And in terms of my role in the waste area, we're looking at reverse logistics as much as we can, and going with electric vehicles and stuff like that to reduce some of that. Produce and stuff. I mean, I think there's a move towards buying local, supporting New Zealand, and there's probably a big opportunity for our own brands, so Pam's and Value, to support local as well, because that's where we have a bit more control over rather than all of the suppliers. But yeah, it's really outside of my area, because there's all the retail merchandising manager people who do purchasing and things for the business, but it's something that the longer I'm in the role, I'd like to get into that area a bit more, and see what the opportunities are there.
Okay, I'll just talk to that a bit, because I think you've oversimplified it. And so if you're a food manufacturer or a startup in New Zealand, you've still got to spend $10,000 or $15,000 on a risk management program, and you've still got to work with MPI. So you're growing product, you're trying to do a hygienic kitchen. So the compliance costs are just horrific for a small company, especially if you're only 3 or 4 people. And these guys will see it. They said, for that AD plant, it was $1.4 million. Engagement, consultants. That's before you even get going. So, and you're a multinational or a big company like Foodstuffs, you've got insurance, you've got consumers, so you need these systems in place. So that you've got to try, but it's actually the government agencies being able to recognise if you're a small company and changing some of the fee structures. Because if you're a big, meatworks exporting, you still get 1 audit or 2 audits a year, and you're a small manufacturer, you still get the same fixed cost. That part is where the subsidies or something has to come. So your local people, and then with the supermarkets, it's buying power. They need to be competitive as well, and that certainty. And so it's a very complex. Logistics is very, very, very complex. You've got insurance. It goes back to incentives. I think we're trying to get there, but there's also this massive resource consent, food safety and quality that's got to be adhered to. I think the cost is too much, but how do we take that off the local producers to be in that space?
Yeah, and in terms of Foodstuffs as an organisation, every individual store is owned and operated. So when the stores are approached by local companies doing the right thing, that resonates with them. That's people in their community trying to make new products and get that into the supermarket. So they're really willing to, a lot of the stores are really willing to stock local. For example, like honey wraps and things, you're seeing those come into the supermarkets, and the reusable produce bags that are, that the New Zealand companies trying to sell that stuff. So they're really, really behind that. And the purchasing decisions can come down to the individual store and that individual owner-operator, rather than, because Countdown have a model of head office, national rollout, and all of that decision-making power is taken away from individual sites because they just make a business decision. So in general, you'll find more New Zealand product, local product, and bespoke products in our stores because of the operating model anyway.
So is there a definition of local within New Zealand?
Oh, not necessarily. Like, in the stores in Wellington, I don't know if it's gone any further than this, but there's a company called Rebel Bakehouse who make tortilla wraps out of cricket flour, and they have their processing plant over in the Wairarapa, and then they're selling their product in Wellington stores. And I mean, they're trying to scale up as well, so they're trying to sell it in more stores across New Zealand. But yeah, that's an example of that kind of thing happening.
We have time for just one last question. Gerald? Carolyn will bring the mic.
Thanks. This one's directly for Andrew. I would have thought one of the biggest sources of raw material would be sewage.
No. So you got, and this is, there's laws and regulations, and there's also perception. So biosolids is over there. New Zealand's 50 years behind there. So let's just park that up. Let's get food waste going first and infrastructure, and then you can use the same technology in the biosolids. But you've got to get, we just got to keep the two subjects separate, because there's working with iwi, there's working with governments. There's a whole lot of regulations in there that's just, it's a good way to put yourself to bed. Biosolids energy, it's great, but it's a conversation we're not mature enough to have at the moment. We can't even get food waste doing anaerobic digestion and catch up with the rest of the world. We're still playing in 4th division, and understand the rules. And biosolids, it's understanding the science, and so AD's there. It'll come, but Australia's doing it, but we want to go and invent the whole thing. We don't want to go over and bring something to New Zealand.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone. That was a great discussion, and certainly a lot for all of us to think about as we go home and reflect on our own consumption habits. I know I'm personally also guilty of going into the grocery store, seeing all that beautiful produce on that upper range of where it should be, and still picking the best one just because, well, the choice is right there. So I think all of us have that opportunity to really pause when we're in the grocery store and making those decisions and thinking, oh, hey, do they actually have that reduced or that ugly produce available today? Or not to mention the green store, but how they had the odd bunch and different opportunities for people to purchase. So just pausing within our own decisions. And as we started at the beginning with the need and climate change, there's so many opportunities across that whole value chain for all of us in our walks of life, and personal and professional, to look how we can contribute and make a difference and make an impact. So thank you, everyone. Please join me in thanking our speakers. And I'd just like to share with you guys, we have a couple of events that are coming up. On the 11th of September, we have a Vibe series, which is our networking events right here at Blink in our kitchen and social area. We have Enviromark coming on the 11th of September. Then we have an event at the Ashburton Events Centre, Safeguarding Our Water, wherein we will be live streaming that one as well. So if you can't join us in Ashburton, please feel free to hop on the stream. We have a Vibes event of networking with PGG Wrightson Seeds on the 3rd of October. And then we're thrilled to announce we're going to be heading back to the show again this year in November and having Blink Innovation Hub. So details will be coming out in the near future of the seminars that we'll be offering for this year. Before we close, I'd also just like to acknowledge and thank our team. These events truly are a team effort for us, and especially like to thank Katie, who's our events manager, and does all of the detailed work around here to make this all smooth and beautiful. So thank you guys. Thank you everyone for coming.